Okay, we're going to work on just how to trace an image right now. So if you wanted to take like a portrait or a photograph of some sort and sort of trace it, there's a couple different ways that you can go about doing that. You can see here that I've taken an image and I've placed it on my artboard. So if I go up to File, Place, it'll bring up my dialog box that'll allow me to find the image that I want to place in here, select it, and stick it in there, right? So I can do whatever I want to with that. You can find a photograph or something like that, and trace and place it in there. So tracing in Illustrator is really easy now. If you just select the black arrow tool and click on that, you'll see up here there's a dialog box automatically that comes up that's basically asking you if you want to image trace it. So if you click here on image trace, you can see that there's all these different options. So if you click on high fidelity photo, you'll see what will happen. It'll take just a second to process this, and if we zoom in on this now, that's a little too much. You can see that instead of it being our the photo that we had before, it's now become the basically an Illustrator-based shapes tracing of what I had there on the face, right? And so you can't really tell the difference on it here, but if you print it out at 100%, you can tell. There's lots of options in the dialog box here that you can kind of play around with. So if you want to, you can go up here to preset and you can go low fidelity photo, and that'll change the way it looks. You can go to 3 colors or 6 colors, and that'll change the way that this thing looks. So a lot of people just like to take a photo, they just dump it into Illustrator, and they basically just trace it. You can go in here and adjust like some of these, some of the sort of variables in there, so you can make it more or less complicated, so you make the paths more or less complicated. There's all kinds of different things that you can try to do if you want to, but you can kind of see how this works, and you can almost always sort of see this stuff out there in the world. When people do it, it almost always looks like they just traced a photo, right? And you shouldn't do this. This is super duper lame. First of all, it's like a canned technique that anybody can figure out. Secondly, it just it doesn't, even this thing here does not really fully represent kind of what I want it to. So instead of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to kind of trace something manually. So let's see. So if we go back, I'm just hitting Command Z here until we go back to the original image that's underneath it. Okay, so that's my originally placed JPEG. So what you can do is, if you want to, you can just place your file there, turn on a layer, start a new layer over the top of it, zoom in on this thing. If you want to, you can lock any other layers that are visible. So I know I'm just working on layer 5 now. And we can kind of trace what we see here. So again, if I use the pen tool, I can just kind of click and drag around this, and I can just kind of get this sad sucker's face started in here, right? I'll just go through this quickly now just to save time, but you can kind of see how I'm tracing the outline of that, and then I can complete it. And if I don't like that color, I can grab it with my selection tool. I can go in here and get rid of the stroke on it. And if I grab my sort of the fill on there, I can actually go in here and I can change my sorry, let's see here, appearance, where are you at? I can actually change the color. So probably the easiest way to select the color is just to grab this eyedropper tool here, and let's say I want it to be a little more that color. I can change it into the color of the face there, right? So if this looks good and I kind of like, it's in decent shape, what I can do is I can make sure I have that layer selected, and I can go to my transparency, and I can just zip the transparency on this layer back a lot so that I can kind of see through it. Go back to my layers and add a new layer on top of it. And then I can add sort of a second color over the top. It might work even better if I put this layer on top of it and then just turn the eyeball on that on and off, right? I know I'm working on layer 6 because it's the only one that's unlocked, so I can turn this back on. And now if I want to, I could go in there and kind of try and add some, I can add a shape in here that will kind of look like this guy's hair, wherever he's got it left, which isn't very many places. And then I can just select the color again, right? So I can go in here and I can actually select, let's see, I want to make sure I have the right layer selected. Lock that again. I can also go into my sort of color here and just tweak it that way. So now if I go back to my layers and turn off my top layer, you can kind of see what I've got, right? So I can go through an image and just kind of slowly build layers, changing opacity around if I want to, just to give me a sense of how, so that I can slowly build up my image until I've got something that looks much more original than just image tracing this thing automatically. You can use the Wacom tablets that are in there to kind of draw your shapes over the top of it. Another great tool to use for this is if you click and hold on the paintbrush tool, you can use the blob brush. And the blob brush is great because basically these shapes that you make, if you want to make it bigger, you double click on it and crank up the size here. Yeah, but now instead of making brush strokes, I'm just basically building one big shape out of these. Any place where it touches, it kind of joins the paths together. That can be a great way to build up kind of big areas as well. So this is what you should do if you're going to do a tracing of a photo or something like that, and you don't want to just use a can technique.